man, the hype was strong with this movie. The Marvel Cinematic Universe has been developing its own sense of gravity ever since people started to wonder what, if any of these, are gonna derail this whole production. Probably won't be this movie because the studio keeps finding new and interesting people with some serious vision that can keep bringing people back into the theaters. And with somebody as strong as Ryan Coogler, fresh off of his successes with Creed and Fruitvale Station, he brings together a strong cast, some great story, and an amazing theme to give you something that you really haven't seen before. And that something is Black Panther. So, following his introduction in Captain America Civil War, Prince T'Challa, played by Chadwick Boseman, returns as the titular hero following the death of his father in the previous film. So now he must become the king of Wakanda. So, to the rest of the world, Wakanda is a mere third world African nation, but in reality, it's actually a hyper advanced civilization with technologies that far exceed the capabilities of the current world superpowers. And not only must T'Challa become the king of this massively powerful nation, he must also become the Black Panther, the country's superhero with super strength, super speed, and a badass piece of suit that it rivals Iron Man's armor on any day. And as the Black Panther, T'Challa must hunt down the country's most elusive terrorist, Ulysses Claw, played by Andy Serkis, who has now been enlisting the help of a strange Black Ops mercenary by the name of Killmonger. He just goes by that. But he's played by Michael B. Jordan, and he's got some major connections to Wakanda that even T'Challa doesn't anticipate. So, first things first, Wakanda is amazing. And I don't mean in the visual department. No. I mean on the conceptual level. See, it functions as one of my favorite kinds of science fiction, which is speculative, trying to see a big what-if scenario. In this case, you have a country that existed without getting affected by colonialization, and furthermore has way more powerful capabilities than any developed nation currently in the world. So the film decides to take great pains to show you what a country like that could possibly look like, both in terms of architecture, fashion, government, language, technologies, whether be it military or healthcare, you name it, the film takes great pains to cover how would that appear. And I loved it because it also heavily ties with the main theme of the movie, which is the dangers and the horrible effects of colonialization. So with that, you get Michael B. Jordan's Killmonger. Now, despite the absurdity of his name, he is probably one of the most fleshed out villains I have ever seen, period. Honestly, he is rivaling Heath Ledger's Joker for me in terms of just how good Michael B. Jordan was knocking it out of the park. And I mean, he completely takes the cake in Marvel's own canon as well, because functions as one of the best villains out there in terms of getting you to see his perspective. You get why he's a bastard. And furthermore, you catch yourself agreeing with him more often than not, and most importantly, other characters agree with him, which helps drive some major conflicts throughout the entire movie. And not only was the acting stellar and the writing stellar, but it functions as a great foil to our main protagonist in T'Challa. Now, your main actor in Chadwick Boseman, he already demonstrated that he can pull this off. And here he once again demonstrates some stellar charisma, some great acting moments, and some really great quiet moments that come right out of a typical indie drama, something like Moonlight. And I was really impressed with Boseman's performance here. And even his writing, because you see, you have a superhero that's not your usual beat up the bad guys, and off again to save the day. He's a king. He's a leader of a nation. And so the film takes great pains to discuss everybody trying to influence him as to where they want to see Wakanda become. whether it wants to maintain its isolationist stance or if it wants to be a divine force of good in the world. And for that, you get to the other cast members who are even way more interesting than your titular character. First of all, you have Lupita Nyong'o as Nakia. She's an ex-spy, and she's also T'Challa's ex-lover, and she really functions as one of the positive effects of where she wants to see the country become in terms of welcoming refugees and possibly going out there and trying to help out others as well. Then you also have Denai Guerrera, Michonne from The Walking Dead, and she functions as the more traditionalist Wakandan citizen who is pretty stern, but also is very, very persuasive as to why Wakanda has maintained its stance for so long. And furthermore, she also leads the all-female special forces of the country, and let me tell you, they are so badass. I mean, they give the Amazons a run for their money, let me tell you that. And finally, you have Letitia Wright as T'Challa's sister Shuri, and she's just a bag of fun. She's developing weapons for Black Panther, she's cracking jokes left and right, and she gets into the fray herself. She's just really fun to hang out with. And best of all, both her and Guerrero are going to be returning for Infinity War as well. So I'm going to be looking forward to seeing them in that film. And on top of it all of this is basically given to you by Ryan Coogler, who has had many successes in the past before. But here he's been given a 9-digit budget to craft something truly unique and amazing. And he knocks it out of the park in both the character department, the story department, the writing department, the cinematography department, and even the action department. Now, he was pretty good in showcasing some great fight scenes in Creed, but here he takes it up another level with some great one-shot fights and even a big spectacular blowout at the end that combines elements of Star Wars and Lord of the Rings. Actually, the film does a great job of blending multiple genre films together. There's a little bit of James Bond in this movie, there's a little bit of Dune as well. I was thoroughly impressed with just how Coogler was able to tie all of these things together. And while they don't seem like they might mix together well, give Coogler some credit, because you're going to be surprised majorly with him. If I had any complaints at all, they're relatively paltry. I mean, I'm only going to basically state that Andy Serkis's character felt a little bit goofy compared to the seriousness that was going on for the rest of the movie. He's kind of like General Cocaine from Wonder Woman. If you saw that movie, you know exactly who I'm talking about. And Martin Freeman's character, he's fine for what he's given. He's just not given much to do. Probably was a byproduct of an earlier script, if my theory is correct. And finally, the final act does get a little CGI heavy, and it gets a little sloppy in certain parts. But for the most part, Coogler does a really great job with his budget. And this is really why Black Panther is so damn important. It's not just a good movie. It also serves as a powerful message for Hollywood. Because consider this. We have only had roughly 30 films directed by an African American that made over $100 million in the global box office. And Coogler's film is now number 34. And not only is it making some major financial and critical headway, it also stars an all-black cast dealing with themes of Afrofuturism. All of these are things that Hollywood producers have concocted all sorts of manners of ignorant reasons as to why it's taken for so long for a film like this to exist. And Black Panther just disposes of such notions. And it's really a herald of some really cool ideas to come. Because if somebody like Coogler can make it, then another producer can trust other marginalized voices to give you something just as unique, just as fresh as well. I love this movie. You need to check this out. IMAX, theater, whatever. This is a 4.5 out of 5-star film. I'm only not giving it a perfect score, just out of some minor technical complaints. But otherwise, you need to see this movie. I'm Christopher Jaramillo, and I'll see you at the lobby.